Hey folks, welcome back to the channel. I've got a wild news story to share with you, so buckle up. But before we jump in, drop a comment and let us know where you're tuning in from, what city or state. Really appreciate all the support. Alright, let's get into it. I remember the moment Lauren Mitchell got off that plane ahead held high, full of confidence like she owned the world. She wasn't feeling even a hint of guilt over the 7 weeks she'd spent tangled up in an affair down in Chile. And honestly, why should she? She had it all: success, charm, and looks. Life with James just felt like a cage. Dr. Oliver had stirred something in her that she hadn't felt in years. He brought back passions she thought were long gone. Their fling had been daring, exciting, right up until James called, furious. His voice, full of anger, shook her. Even though it rattled her nerves, a small part of her couldn't help but respect the fire in him, something she'd never really seen before. But as the days turned into weeks, Oliver started showing a different side. Once he realized things weren't smooth at home for her, his attitude shifted. He became possessive, harsh, even cruel. What once felt like freedom quickly started to feel like a trap. Still, Lauren couldn't bring herself to admit she regretted it. She took his verbal jabs without flinching, her pride keeping her silent. But when the fling fizzled out, Oliver made it loud and clear he was done. He didn't even sit near her on the flight home. Just switched seats like she was a stranger. Meanwhile, her co-worker Sophia, who was dealing with her own affair drama, confessed something serious. James had apparently threatened to spill everything. And Sophia's husband, Ethan, well, forgiveness wasn't exactly his strong suit. Sure enough, as soon as they landed back in the States, a process server handed Sophia divorce papers right there at the gate. Lauren braced herself, half expecting the same fate, but no one came for her. And that, to her, was proof of what she already believed. James didn't have it in him to walk away. She told herself he was probably sitting at home, heartbroken but loyal, just waiting for her to come back. After those intense weeks with Oliver, she was more than ready to take charge again, imagining James desperate for her return. But everything crumbled the second she walked into the Grandview Hotel. She expected to see James, maybe waiting in the lobby. Instead, the place was empty. Pushing away the unease creeping in, she made her way to the front desk. And then it started. One by one, her credit cards were declined. A sinking feeling hit her gut. She tried to play it cool, kept her smile up, and asked them to run it again. But the front desk clerk didn't budge. She could feel people whispering around her, but she stepped aside, clinging to the idea that James must have had some explanation. That's when things got worse. She tried calling him, only to find out his number had been disconnected. That was when the panic really started to build. Right then, a man in a suit walked up and handed her a manila envelope. "James wanted you to have this," he said. No legal talk, no apology, just this mysterious package. With shaky hands, she tore it open. Inside was a typed letter and a smaller sealed envelope. Her heart pounded as she started to read. And with each word, it became clearer. James wasn't the same man anymore. The guy who used to shrink away from conflict had changed. He was cold, calculated, and out for revenge. Her pulse thudded in her ears as she read one line after another. But one sentence stopped her cold. "You apparently justified your actions by convincing yourself I had some whirlwind romance with Carla back in Iraq." He made it clear there hadn't been any affair. Just one moment of weakness, comforting a fellow soldier going through something awful. Nothing physical ever happened. Then he drew a sharp contrast between that and her well-planned getaways with Oliver. She remembered the way she used to brush away guilt, telling herself it wasn't that bad. Her jaw clenched as she forced herself to keep reading. "I also know about the affair you had when I was stationed in Japan. Someone saw your little parking routine outside the Sunset Inn. You never admitted it, but we both know what really went on." Lauren's cheeks burned with anger. That was ancient history. Why bring it up now? They'd made it through that chapter. Back then, she thought she'd been careful. It was with an anesthesiologist who worked nights. The thrill had been there, sure. But it ended the moment James came home. So it shouldn't still matter, right? But James's next words hit harder. "From your letter, I see you believe we live in a marriage where one partner can just do whatever they want, no permission needed. I guess turnabout is fair play." Her heart sped up. Turnabout? James wasn't playing anymore. Each paragraph after that was like a punch to the gut. He'd sold the house, emptied the bank accounts, canceled his phone, and he was heading out on a long RV trip, disappearing into the wind. She scanned the letter like her life depended on it, not even noticing the people watching her. Then came the real blow. "I've already shown the hospital what you've been up to. He had gathered everything, photos, messages, and handed them over to HR. There was even a contract waiting to be signed that would fire both her and Dr. Oliver to avoid a legal mess under the hospital's morality clause. Tuesday morning was going to be a nightmare. Her heart dropped. That hospital wasn't just a job, it was her identity. She'd been proud of her blunt, no-nonsense style as a nurse. Losing that would crush her. But that's exactly what James wanted. I gave the kids copies of your pictures and videos with Oliver, the letter said. Told them the truth. I'm leaving, and when they begged me not to cut you off, I told them I'd contact you as often as you contacted me 0 times. She could almost hear the sarcasm in his voice, a bitter tone she'd never heard from him before. And then came the final hit. I'm not filing for divorce. If you want out, you file. I won't fight it. I've already taken what I need, the house, the cars, the money, and the kids' respect. Enjoy the open relationship you forced on me. Oh, and here's your last gift. A $600 Visa gift card. That's the only piece of plastic you've got left. James, her hands were trembling. A mix of fury, shame, and fear churned in her stomach like a storm. Without a second glance at the so-called gift, she shoved the letter back into the envelope. Tears threatened to spill, but her pride wouldn't let them. She took a shaky breath, lifted her chin, and muttered James's name like a curse. In her mind, he was the one who'd wrecked everything. Determined to take control, she marched back to the hotel desk, tossed her purse on the counter, and slid the envelope underneath it. With a snap of her fingers, she demanded, I need a room. She tried to sound in control. My husband bailed on me, but I can pay cash, if I have to. The clerk didn't flinch. We do accept cash, ma'am, but we'll need a deposit and a valid ID. Her stomach tightened. She had no idea how much she even had on her. Digging through her bag, she scraped together barely $120, nowhere near enough. Jaw clenched, she ripped open the smaller envelope James had left and pulled out the $600 Visa gift card. Plastering on a fake smile, she slid it forward. Try this. If James hadn't been bluffing, it'd cover at least a night or two. She tapped her foot, waiting, praying. The card went through. Relieved, but burning with resentment, she paid for one night. Room 1087, Miss Mitchell. Enjoy your stay. The clerk's tone was polite, but Lauren swore she heard something smug behind the words. Or maybe that was just her paranoia. She snatched the keycard, waved down the bellhop, and marched off. Her whole world was collapsing, and all she could feel was pure rage, at James, at herself, at how fast everything had unraveled. The bellhop trailed behind her in silence, pushing her luggage like it was a funeral procession. At the elevator, she stabbed the button and glanced at her phone. Deep down, she wished James would call, so she could scream at him, demand answers, maybe just unload everything boiling inside her. But his number? Still disconnected. Just another cold reminder that he'd really cut her off. When the elevator doors opened, she stepped in without a word. The bellhop followed. In her purse, the envelope felt like it was burning a hole, James's final blow, still fresh and stinging. Alone in the hotel room, Lauren paced back and forth, trying to make sense of what had just happened. Her suitcase sat untouched by the bed. Outside the window, the city lights blinked, but all she saw was her own reflection, a woman coming apart at the seams. She dropped down onto the bed, her mind flashing back to the moment she chose Oliver. Back then, she was sure James would never leave her. Oliver had made her feel wanted, powerful. He whispered sweet things, told her she was wasting her potential on a boring marriage. She had soaked up every word, convinced James was weak. She believed he'd sit there, faithful and quiet, just waiting for her to come home. How cocky she'd been, flaunting her affair like some twisted badge of independence. She'd even laughed about it, thinking she was the one in control. And when James called her in a rage, she smirked, thinking he'd get over it like always. But now? Now she realized her pride had pushed him too far. Maybe he'd reached his limit. A flicker of regret bubbled up, but anger drowned it out. She needed a plan. She had no house, no money, but she wasn't going to let this break her. She wasn't some helpless victim. After a restless night full of tossing and turning, Lauren woke up with a plan. First step, call the bank. There had to be some kind of mistake. But after explaining who she was, all she got was a flat, professional voice. Ma'am, all joint accounts were legally closed by Mr. James Mitchell, using a valid power of attorney. Unfortunately, we can't give you any more information. They ended the call by suggesting she contact him directly. Lauren hung up, her fist clenched so tight her knuckles turned white. Next, she tried calling her kids. Both were grown and living out of state. She got her son's voicemail. Her daughter, who'd always been a little closer to James, didn't even let it ring. Straight to voicemail. Lauren left a tight, clipped message. "I need to talk to you. It's urgent. Call me back." She didn't say more. No way was she going to spill all this on a voicemail. But deep down, she had a terrible feeling James had gotten to them too. Next, she dressed sharply, crisp slacks, a tailored blouse, hair pinned back just right, and caught a taxi straight to the hospital. If she could cut this off at the source, maybe HR would chalk it all up to a bitter husband with a grudge. She had a reputation, after all. People respected her. She was a skilled nurse manager, direct, yes, but good at what she did. Let them try to take that away. She was ready for a fight. She got there just before lunch. The moment she stepped into the lobby, she felt eyes on her. Whispers. Stares. Word was clearly spreading. But she kept her head high and marched straight to human resources. Behind the front desk sat a stern-looking woman with a neat bun and sharp eyes. Her nameplate read Miss Anderson, HR manager. Lauren's stomach dropped. That was the name James had mentioned in his letter. Miss Anderson looked up, her expression like ice. "Lauren Mitchell. I've been expecting you." Her voice was clipped, each word coded in quiet judgment. Lauren straightened her shoulders. "I'm here to address whatever nonsense my husband's been spreading. I don't know what exactly he sent, but it—" Miss Anderson cut her off. "He sent explicit photographs, Miss Mitchell, along with statements from a licensed private investigator." Lauren froze. "He also made it clear that if we continue employing either you or Dr. Oliver Bennett, he will pursue legal action for violating the hospital's morality clause." Lauren's lips parted, but no words came. Finally, she snapped. "That's absurd. He's just bitter. None of that gives you legal grounds." Miss Anderson raised a brow. "You signed a code of conduct when you were hired, did you not?" Without waiting for a reply, she pulled a folder from her desk. "We have your signature right here. The agreement clearly states that staff in high-visibility roles, especially management, can be dismissed for behavior that brings public scandal or disrepute to the hospital." She tapped a highlighted line in the document. "We have cause." "This is ridiculous," Lauren shot back, though her heart was pounding in her chest. "It wasn't some public scandal, it was personal," she added, trying to hold her ground. Miss Anderson stayed calm, her tone like ice. "Your husband's email was thorough. He didn't just send it to us. He forwarded it to co-workers, physicians, donors, and sponsors. The photos were explicit. People are talking, Miss Mitchell. In the halls, in meetings, everywhere." Lauren's face flushed. Even in her worst nightmares, she never imagined James would drag her name through the mud like this, let alone with half the city watching. "So that's it? You're just going to fire me?" Her voice cracked despite her effort to stay composed. "We're reviewing the situation with legal," Miss Anderson said, lips tight. "This isn't about your personal life. The board has to protect the hospital from lawsuits and reputational harm." She slid an envelope across the desk. "You're suspended without pay, pending further review." Lauren stared at the envelope like it might bite. Part of her wanted to scream, curse, throw it right back. But her mouth wouldn't move. A dozen emotions tangled inside her, too tightly to sort. So she grabbed the envelope, turned, and walked out. As she headed for the exit, Miss Anderson called after her. "Security will escort you to your locker." Right on cue, a large man in uniform stepped beside her. He didn't say a word, just walked at her side, expression unreadable. Lauren kept her chin high, refusing to look shaken, even as curious stares followed her down the hallway. People definitely knew. Some watched her like a car crash, unable to look away. Others whispered as she passed, their eyes darting between her and their phones. The shame crawled up her spine like static electricity, but the rage kept her moving. She spotted Oliver near the nurse's station, surrounded by staff. He looked pale, beads of sweat on his forehead. A few nurses who used to hang on his every word now stared like he was something rotten. Oliver saw her and scowled. But there was panic behind his eyes. "What is going on?" Lauren hissed as she approached him. Oliver pulled her aside quickly, lowering his voice. "Your out-of-control husband sent photos and videos to HR. He's ruining my career. I'm under investigation. This is unreal." Lauren yanked her arm away. "My out-of-control husband? You didn't mind parading me around Chile like a trophy. Think I asked to be email blasted like a scandalous newsletter? I'm losing my job too." Oliver's face twisted. "Don't pin this on me. You told me your husband was soft. You practically said you had a green light to do whatever you wanted. If I'd known the guy was a snake, I'd have run the other way." Just then, the elevator dinged. Security was coming down the hall. Oliver stiffened, tugged his stethoscope off, and stepped back like a cornered animal. Great, he muttered. That's probably HR. Might as well be my firing squad. Lauren's lip curled. Sympathy? Not even a drop. She still remembered how he laughed when James first called in anger, mocking him, calling him weak. Said, real men don't beg. Well, look who was begging now. She gave Oliver one last icy glare. Enjoy your open relationship, she said, echoing James's parting jab. Then she turned and walked away, letting Oliver stew in the mess he helped create. She was nearly at the hospital's front door when a familiar voice stopped her cold. She turned to see Charlotte, her old neighbor, the very woman she once tried dragging into her messy game with Oliver. Charlotte stood with her arms crossed, her face full of judgment. Well, look who it is, she said, her voice sharp as glass. The globe-trotting heartbreaker herself. Her eyes scanned Lauren from head to toe. I take it you've read James's letter? Lauren's stomach flipped. What are you doing here? Maxwell had a checkup. I stopped by HR to finish paperwork for a new part-time role. She leaned in slightly. And guess what? You're all over the place. Hard to miss. Lauren swallowed hard, pride clashing with embarrassment. I'm sure you're enjoying this. Save it, Charlotte snapped. You tried dragging me into your little games with Oliver. Don't talk to me about judgment. You and your husband swing, Lauren fired back. So don't pretend you're saints. Charlotte let out a bitter laugh. We tried something new, but not to be dishonest. There's a difference, Lauren. Maxwell and I? We're honest. We don't keep secrets. We do it together. You tried pulling me into something behind James's back. That's not swinging. That's betrayal. Lauren bristled. Don't you put this on me. You were feeding me ideas for months. You made it all sound so empowering. Charlotte shook her head. Don't twist it. I never told you to lie. You chose to do that all on your own. She gave Lauren a hard look. James is a good man, and you threw him away. If you just talked to him honestly, who knows? Maybe you two could have worked something out, Charlotte said, her voice sharp but steady. But instead, you lied, manipulated, and embarrassed him. I had no idea what you were doing. You never even gave him the chance to know the truth. Lauren clenched her fists. And you're defending him? After he's ruined my entire life? He sold my house, drained my accounts, and turned everyone I know against me. He's a bad person. Charlotte's eyes narrowed. No, Lauren. You made him that way. Actions have consequences. I told him the same over dinner. And just so you know, she added coldly, he wasn't trying to get close to me. He said the idea made him sick, especially after you tried to drag us into your little scheme. Lauren's face burned. She wanted to fire back something brutal, but nothing came. Her mouth just locked up. Finally, she scoffed. Tell him I hope he enjoys life in that crummy RV. You can both keep your moral lectures. She turned sharply and stormed off, ignoring the stairs building around her. The weight of judgment hung in the air like a heavy fog. Outside, dark clouds were already moving in. Rain started falling as if on cue, matching her mood beat for beat. She was suspended, probably about to be fired. Her credit cards didn't work. The house she once loved? Gone. Sold to some young couple. She pictured the back deck, where she used to sip wine and dream about feeling free. Now it was someone else's dream. Pulling out her phone, she made a few calls, old coworkers she thought she could count on. One of them hesitated, said James had sent proof. The other didn't even pick up. The silence stung. So what if she'd messed up? Marriages had come back from worse. Who were they to judge? With nowhere else to turn, she went back to the Grandview Hotel, the same place James had left her that humiliating gift card for. And now, she had no choice but to use it. Fuming in the back of the taxi, she thought of one thing: finding James. She called everyone she could think of. Old neighbors. The real estate agent who sold their house. No one answered. It was like he had vanished completely, erased every trace of himself. That night, she sat in her hotel room, staring at the glowing skyline outside her window. Everything looked normal out there. But inside, her world had caved in. She checked her phone. Still no texts. No calls. Just silence. Except her inbox, it was overflowing. Her gut twisted as she clicked through. They were all from James. Forwarded emails. Photos of her with Oliver in private moments. The subject lines hit like a punch. My wife's new life. Doctors without morals. Open relationships, her version. He had sent them to friends. Family. Even people from church. Rage bubbled up inside her. She paced the room, heart pounding, plotting revenge, thinking of lawsuits, court battles, anything to stop him. But the photos were real. The emails were his. It wasn't slander if it was true. He had the upper hand. She collapsed onto the bed, clutching the sheets, trembling with fury. How could he do this to her? He had taken a private mess and turned it into a circus. If he just handled it quietly, maybe they could have patched something up. Maybe there was still a way to fix things. But instead, he lit the whole thing on fire and walked away. A small voice inside whispered that maybe she had lit the match first. But she crushed that thought before it could grow. The next morning, there was one small ray of hope. Her daughter finally returned her call. It wasn't a conversation, just a voicemail. But it hit like a hammer. Mom, I got your message. I don't even know what to say. Dad told us everything. We saw the photos. He didn't hold back. I'm really disappointed, Mom. And I'm worried about him too. He's hurting. He told me he's going away for a while. I love you, but I can't be in the middle of this. Maybe one day we can talk. But I need time. I'm sorry. Lauren shut her eyes. Tears welled up, but she refused to let them fall. Her own daughter had turned away. She tried calling again, straight to voicemail. Then she tried her son. No answer. She left message after message, voice cracking. Please, just let me explain. It's not what it looks like. Please. But it was clear. James had already told his version, and everyone believed him. She spent the next few hours searching online, looking for lawyers, someone who could help her fight back. One by one, they said no. Some politely, others not. One firm was blunt. If the photos are real, it's not defamation. And without money, you can't challenge the asset transfers. She hung up, shaking with rage. She had nothing. No job, no home, no family support. And for the first time, it hit her. This was real desperation. That afternoon, an unexpected email came through. Her heart jumped. James? She opened it fast, eyes scanning. Lauren. You're probably ignoring me, but I figured I'd try anyway. I set up this temporary email. Don't bother tracking it. I'll shut it down soon. Now you know what it feels like, having your life turned upside down without a say. You built this mess. I left a few of your things in a storage unit. The address is below. Just odds and ends. Old letters. Knickknacks. Nothing valuable. The unit will be unlocked Friday from 8:30 a.m. to noon. After that, it's gone. Don't expect me to be there. I'm already on the road. Let's just say, I'm a few states away. The open road is beautiful. I guess this is me being generous. One last time, James had written. I'm only doing it because I used to love you. I figure you might want a few pieces of your past. Or maybe not. Jay. Lauren's chest tightened. He was scrubbing her out of their shared life, piece by piece. And yet, there was something disturbingly polite about it. He was letting her pick through the scraps of what used to be. She hammered out a furious reply. But when she hit send, it bounced right back. Error message. The email was already deactivated. Of course it was. I'm so frustrated with him. By 8:15 Friday morning, she stood in a gritty alley lined with worn-out storage units, the sky above as dull and lifeless as she felt. Another night at the hotel had drained more of that cursed gift card. She hadn't eaten much, just enough to keep herself going. Every dollar now had a weight to it. She eyed the storage unit. Padlocked. 8:28 a.m. Would James really show up? Or was this another twisted trick? Right on time, a storage manager wandered over, jingling a mess of keys. You Lauren Mitchell? He asked, barely looking at her. She nodded. He unlocked the padlock and rolled the door up. He said, I have to open exactly at 8:30. I'll lock it again at noon if you're gone. Inside, her eyes adjusted to the dim light. There were maybe 3 or 4 boxes lined neatly in a row. Each one was marked in James's handwriting. Junk. Miscellaneous. Keepsakes. Letters. And the last one, Lauren's indulgences. She let out a dry laugh. Typical James. Even now, he couldn't help throwing in one last jab. She knelt down, opening the flaps, digging through the boxes like she was looking for buried treasure. Or maybe a reason not to fall apart. It all felt so exposed, like James was still pulling the strings, even from miles away. Then she found it, an old photo. They were on a ski trip, maybe 20 years back. Both smiling, cheeks red from the cold. James's hand wrapped around hers, eyes lit up with love. That moment used to mean something. Now it just burned. She flung the photo aside. What was she even hoping to find here? Some hidden message? A sign he still cared? No. Everything in those boxes was carefully chosen to make a point. He wanted her to see exactly what she'd thrown away. By 10, she'd sorted what she wanted to keep. Most of it had no real value, just small, deeply personal pieces of a life that once mattered. She thought about leaving the love letters behind, but something in her, something bitter and stubborn, made her take them. Maybe she didn't want James holding the full story alone. She dragged the boxes out to the curb, trying to flag a cab. In that moment, she wasn't fighting to hold on to him anymore. She was fighting to hold on to herself. Then she heard a voice behind her. Lauren. She turned to see an older woman getting out of a car, face kind and cautious. I'm Nina Harper. My husband and I bought your house, from James. Lauren froze. So this was her, the new owner. James's mysterious, young couple. Though up close, Nina looked older than Lauren expected. Maybe it was stress. Or just life. I'm Lauren, she said stiffly. Sorry to surprise you. Nina nodded. James mentioned this storage unit. Said there were some things we could pick up, maybe coordinate with you. She hesitated, clearly uncomfortable. I just wanted to say, we don't want trouble. We had no idea the sale happened like this. James said you wanted a fresh start. Lauren's lips curled into something that wasn't quite a smile. My home, she repeated quietly. Then louder, bitterly. Well, congratulations. You're officially part of my husband's little revenge tour. Nina's eyes softened. I know it doesn't mean much, but the sale was legal. James said you'd moved on. I guess that wasn't true. Lauren let out a short, bitter laugh. He's gotten good at lying. I hope you enjoy the hardwood floors and the new deck. I paid for all of it. Nina shifted, clearly unsure what to say. If you'd ever like to visit, if you have memories there, or anything. Stop, Lauren snapped, voice breaking. I don't want your pity. Take the house. Redecorate it. Paint the walls pink for all I care. It's yours now. Nina's face fell. I'm sorry. Really. She backed away, giving Lauren space, and climbed into her car. Lauren stood there, shoulders shaking, surrounded by cardboard boxes and heartbreak. Back at the hotel, she dumped the boxes in the corner of her room and collapsed into the nearest chair. She picked up the letters, flipping through them without purpose. Then something caught her eye, one she didn't recognize. It wasn't in James's handwriting. It was her own, an unsigned draft. One she'd written years ago after a brutal fight, back when she'd suspected James of cheating during a trip overseas. In it, she'd poured out her pain, her jealousy, her rage. Every line dripped with resentment, and she had never given it to him. It just sat there, unsent, unread, until now. The irony hit her like a punch to the gut. Everything she had threatened in that old letter had somehow boomeranged back. James, if you ever break my trust, I'll make you regret it. I'm not a woman who takes betrayal lightly. I'll destroy the illusions that bind us. Now she was the one staring at the wreckage, and he was the one who walked away with everything intact. She let the paper slip from her fingers. It floated to the floor like the last bit of pride she had left. Reading those words now, all that old fire just felt arrogant, foolish even. Back then, she never imagined she'd be the one to betray him, or that mild-mannered, dependable James would be capable of delivering such complete devastation. But here they were. The day finally came when she couldn't afford another night at the Grandview. The front desk told her the gift card balance was tapped out. No credit, no backup plan, no one to call. Her only option now was a rundown motel on the outskirts of town, the kind of place that charged by the week and didn't ask questions. The room smelled like mildew and disappointment. The wallpaper peeled in corners. The lights flickered like they were as tired as she felt. She looked at her reflection in a cracked mirror. She hardly recognized the woman staring back. The dark circles under her eyes, the dull hair, the slacks she hadn't changed out of in days. She looked like someone who'd wandered out of a bad dream. She sat on the edge of the sagging bed. A roach scurried across the nightstand, and she shut her eyes. How on earth had she ended up here? Then her phone rang. She grabbed it like a lifeline. Her heart jumped. Maybe it was James. But it was a blocked number. She hesitated, then answered. Hello. A smug voice came through. You win, Lauren, said Dr. Oliver. She didn't say anything, just waited. They fired me. Blacklisted me from half the hospitals in the region. My wife walked out too. So thanks for that. She let out a bitter laugh. I win? I'm living in a cockroach motel. James took everything and torched my life. Well, Oliver muttered, that's what happens when you get involved with someone like me. She almost laughed. You're no saint yourself. Next time, he snapped, maybe don't pick a fling that turns your husband into a nuclear warhead. She wanted to yell at him, let out all her frustration. But instead, she felt empty. He hung up without another word. She tossed the phone aside. That chapter was closed, if it had ever really been open. The thrill she once felt with Oliver was gone. All that remained was disgust. Then, out of spite, she did something reckless. She still had the number of one of James's old military buddies, Dylan. James used to talk to him after deployments, always said Dylan was one of the few people he trusted. If anyone knew where James had gone, it was him. Her hands trembled as she dialed. Dylan picked up quickly. "Hello, Dylan. It's Lauren Mitchell." He sighed before she could finish. "Yeah, James told me not to talk to you." Her stomach tightened. "Don't hang up. You don't know what he's told you. I deserve a chance to." "I'm sorry," Dylan cut in, voice like stone. "James has been through enough. If you want to fix things, do it yourself. He asked for space, and I'm giving it to him." Then he hung up. She stared at the screen, rage swelling in her chest. No one would help her. Not one person. James had vanished into the wind, and the whole damn world was letting him. The days dragged. 1 week turned into 2. And then the letter came. Termination for cause. Code of conduct violation. Effective immediately. It was official now. She wasn't suspended anymore, she was fired. Word had spread fast through the local medical network. Every door she knocked on was slammed in her face. The money was gone. The last dollar of James's gift card had disappeared days ago. She started selling what little jewelry she had left. Most of it went for pennies. Her control, the one thing she always clung to, was slipping. Night after night, she sat in the motel's dim, humming silence, reading and rereading that letter James had left behind, the one that started it all. "I'm not divorcing you. I don't care about divorces, and I don't plan to remarry. I've gotten everything I need. If you want out, you do the filing. I'll be on the open road, enjoying my freedom. Just once, if you don't mind." Those last words hit the hardest. Just once, if you don't mind. He was quoting her. The same words she'd tossed at him so casually when she told him about Oliver, as if her affair was nothing more than a misstep. She realized, with a chill, that James's revenge hadn't just been about money or property. It was psychological. He'd weaponized her own words, her own desires. She used to say she wanted independence, freedom, excitement. He gave her exactly that, served cold. Now she had isolation, misery, emptiness. With nothing left, she finally called a lawyer. She told herself it was about reclaiming dignity, getting legal clarity. Maybe she could accuse James of misusing the power of attorney. But the attorney's voice was polite and grim. James had done everything by the book. Every document, every transaction flawless. Her signature was on the original POA, voluntarily signed. No coercion, no loopholes. The money was likely gone. The trail vanished. The lawyer didn't sugarcoat it. "You can sue," he said flatly, "but you'll need serious money. And there's no guarantee you'll win." Lauren just stared, hollow-eyed, at the sheet of legal estimates he slid across the desk. It may as well have been written in another language. She didn't have that kind of money. She didn't have any kind of money. And so she was right back where James had left her, with that final, mocking choice in his letter: file for divorce if you want out, or stay stuck in a marriage that was dead in every way but on paper. A woman with no husband, no home, no assets, and not a shred of hope. She left the office numb. Not angry. Not shocked. Just blank. The dream of dragging James into court, of making him answer for what he'd done, had crumbled under the cold weight of reality. She drove the beat-up car she'd managed to buy with pawnshop money back to the motel. The sky was thick and gray, sagging under the weight of another storm. The kind that just sat there, heavy and mean. She parked and sat there a while. The engine ticked softly, like a clock counting down to something she didn't want to face. And then the tears came. Not loud, not dramatic. Just slow and steady. She, who once strutted through hospitals with perfect posture and smug confidence, was now crying in a car outside a Roach motel, stale smoke curling through the cracked window. Eventually, she moved. She made herself open the door and step inside. Same cracked walls. Same flickering lights. Same sad smell of failure. She dropped her bag on the wobbly table and stared at the stack of boxes she'd hauled from the storage unit. Love letters spilled out of one. James's old words, sweet, hopeful, mocked her now. With a burst of rage, she slammed her fist against the table. "James Mitchell," she hissed through clenched teeth, "you terrible person." But even as the words left her mouth, she heard his voice in her mind. From that call weeks ago. That raw, broken tone. The sound of a man pushed too far. And in that moment, something clicked. She hadn't just betrayed James, she had remade him. She crushed his pride, flaunted her affair, and laughed off his pain like it was nothing. And in return, the gentle, unassuming man she thought she knew had turned into something else. Something cold, strategic, cruel in a way she never imagined he could be. He didn't yell. He didn't chase. He didn't beg. He just disappeared and made sure to salt the earth behind him. Feeling sick, she opened her phone. She scrolled through the photos she never bothered to delete. One picture stopped her cold, a shot from her first fling. Sunset in. Her, smirking next to some guy she couldn't even remember the name of. She hit delete, but it didn't help. There were still dozens more memories of a life that James had already downloaded, archived, and publicly weaponized. Her shame was out there, already seen, already judged. He had won. All she had now were a few boxes of dusty possessions, a name that was ruined in her industry, and a motel room with a leaky faucet. The avalanche he'd triggered had buried her completely. Night fell again. The city outside flickered with neon and high beams, but in her little room, everything was still, dead quiet. She curled up on the bed, knees to her chest, listening to the slow drip of water. That sound was louder than any crowd, more real than any courtroom threat. It was the sound of loss, steady and unchanging. Maybe if she'd been honest, asked James before cheating. Maybe if she hadn't laughed at his pain. Maybe if she'd listened during those final angry calls instead of brushing him off. Maybe then he wouldn't have turned into the thing he became. She hated him. But deep down, under all the bitterness and shame, she knew she'd lit the match. She had planted the seeds of the storm that destroyed her. And now? The woman who once felt carefree in Oliver's company was gone. All that remained was a shadow, hunched in a crumbling motel, haunted by her own arrogance. In the silence, the truth finally sank in. James Mitchell, the man she thought was too soft to fight back, had become something darker than she ever imagined. And she had created him. She stared into the dark, a bitter laugh caught in her throat, knowing that one reckless betrayal had unleashed a chain reaction she could never undo. There was no going back. No escape.